part of what you're doing with pandas is manipulate data, right? That's kind of like the main purpose of this module. And there is a paradigm or an approach that's called split, apply, combine. And sometimes this goes over a little too fast, and there is certainly some complexity, and that's what this activity we're going to do right now is about, unpacking some conceptual details about this. So split, apply, combine basically has three stages involved. You see there an illustration of a lot of data points in different shapes and colors, and they're all enclosed by a rectangle to kind of represent data frame. So split is about breaking the original, I call it the whole enchiladas. Like you have your data set is right now has the shape of this data frame, but is multimodal. So multimodal meaning that multiple columns are of different types and they're all related. All columns are related, all features are related. So this is about breaking a problem into pieces, and it's about operating in each piece and then putting all the pieces back together. That's kind of in a nutshell what split, apply, combine is about. Okay, so there is here a reference to something you can download. And so when we're working with split, apply, combine, which will be something you will do with a command, the command here. Okay, the command to do this is called group. Oh, goody. So I need my thing. This is called group by. Okay, this is a method, and in R there's a similar thing. And so in SQL you can also do this type of. There's a lot of packages where you basically are doing the same thing. So, but in pandas you would use the method, operator dot group, because you're creating groups, group by, one word, and then here in parentheses, this is a method, so you have to pass several arguments if needed. But so here on the upper right, there is an illustration where the initial setup has two dimensions that are denoted here in 1 and 2. Okay, this is basically a two-dimensional array. And if you go and think of what do I have here across what I'm calling number 1, there are two pieces, two little blocks. So I could, by just facing that face that I'm calling here number 1, I could simply, this is about how you dissect or how do you split or cut, this original data set, because you want to do things independently and then you want to put them back together. So it's not like these different pieces of the data are not independent on each other. It's just you do that for convenience to kind of gain some understanding along one piece, along one section. Okay, so you do this dissection. So if we were using what we have in front of us here on the number 1, we could split this into one group here painted in blue and the other group into 1. But I can also use the information that we have in this side we're calling number 2. There are 3 pieces. So using the information number 2, you could then separate these into 3 different pieces. And if you were going to do a combination of what you did first and you did second, then this breaks into all these little cubes, right? So there are 3 different ways of dissecting or splitting this data set that originally had only 2 dimensions, 1 and 2. Now, if the data has 1, 2, and 3, which is what now we have in this other portion here of kind of the middle lower part of this slide. So you have, so now this kind of looks like a building, okay? As a building, think of maybe this number 1 is a street, and this number 2 maybe is an avenue, right? So you could think of, well, I'm going to start dissecting this. And if I am standing here on the street, we're kind of back to the scenario we're calling number 1 in the two-dimensional case. And if I'm standing outside of the building on the avenue facing the building, I'm kind of similar to what I had in number 2. But now I have this height, this altitude, and there is this dimension going up. So it's really literally like going up one floor at a time. So there could be a dissection using information on the street level, right? You would split this now, it looks like they're tall. You could also dissect it using the information you have at the avenue level, or you could dissect this if you use, as if you're going in an elevator or maybe the stairs, you go from one floor to the next floor to the next floor along that dimension is called 3. So along 1, along 2, and along 3, there are 3 different ways of dissecting. If you start combining 1 and 2, that gives you this. If you combine 1 and 3, that's going to give you that. And if you consider 2 and 3, that's going to give you this one. And if you consider 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3, then that's the scenario. So for this 3-dimensional scenario, you may have basically 7 different ways of slicing or dissecting the data here. Okay, so when you're using the split, apply, combine strategy or framework, you're basically, sometimes in the statistics, multivariate distributions, there is a notion of using a marginal distribution. So you're just going along one of the statistical variables one at a time. So you're not throwing out the rest of the information, just kind of taking a look at that slice. And that's kind of what is at stake here. That's kind of what this is about. So with that in mind, remember we had kind of very briefly overview that in terms of statistical variables, there are quantitative variables, there are categorical variables, and we were making an association between those variables and the data types in Python or Pandas, okay? So this is the part of the exercise. You will find there are 2 exercises, and each exercise has your name, okay? So the names are not in alphabetical order. So Katie, you're first here. But this is where each of you has access to this PowerPoint deck of slides. And we're going to break for maybe 5 minutes for each exercise, but 5 minutes, and then we compare notes. So the way to read this is you have, excuse me, you have on the left, there is a data frame, excuse me. Data frame with 2 columns. One column has information about keys. Another column has information about values, the so-called key value pairs, right? But there is a lot of them. So, and then there is a split stage, and then there is an apply stage, and there is a combine stage, okay? So what is going on in the apply? The apply is where you apply operations. When you can also say aggregation or aggregate, but you are applying operations. Here there are 3 operations: addition or summation, the short form, the abbreviated is SUM, minimum, the smallest, MIN, and then maximum, the largest, MAX. Okay, so first you do the split, then you do the apply, and then you would summarize or report your computations, right? So the way this is phrased here is that you should look and maybe do the split by key. Any questions of what you are doing from first, right? So you're doing the split, then you're doing the apply, and after you do the apply, you're going to the combine. But any questions about, are you with me? So if we're using the keys, you still have the original data as a data frame. If you want to group this by key, each group still has a data frame, right? So for example, there is a key here, A, and there is another key here, A. So I could write here A, and then write a corresponding value for A, and that would give me the first group. And I could do the same for the other, so the other keys. And then from there, you do the summation, the minimum, the maximum for each table, and you report that in the ladder table. Any questions? Okay, so I'm gonna actually, I think most of you already completed it. So let's compare notes. Let me share, make this visible here, and I'm gonna. Everybody can see everybody's slide. So for that, let me go back here, and let's see. Right. So 3 stages: split, apply, and combine. Excuse me. So we're seeing here right now Katie's, and when we decided to use the key to do the split, so split the original data frame by using key. So we are going to group in each group, the key is the same, right? So there are 2 corresponding values for A. The next group has 3 observations, 3 rows, and the next one has 2, right? And so we can see here that this is very similar to what I think most of you got. And then for each table, we apply some operations or operators, okay? In this case, we're interested in the total sum of the values. So the summation here would be 3 plus 1, which is what gives 4, and then the minimum is 1, the maximum is 3. So that this is also that from apply to combine, that those operations sometimes they're called aggregate operators, and so that's what's summarized or reported in the latter stage, which is called combine, right? It's completely arbitrary. You choose to do the operation of your choice. Okay, so you can see that it seems everybody, and then there was a happy face there, so that is on point. So maybe I can also yeah, so maybe like I can drop this the lightning ball that was right on target. So very similar here, very similar here, right? That's what that was about. So and same thing here. Here not quite, but I think now Colby, you're with me. You saw the note. I think you're, yeah. So almost there. Very good. So this is sometimes kind of buried. So that's why I want you to do this type of exercise. So here is the second exercise. Again, there is 1 slide for each of you. So you'll find the slide with your name. Here you're given the data frame. There are basically 3 variables, or 3 each column. The columns are called features. So, and you can choose one. This is everybody here is going to do a version that's different. If you need an extra slide, remember, you can use insert and do new slide. But to begin with, you're going to try to work on this space that you have there. So you're going to choose one variable, meaning you're going to choose one column to do the split. Okay, so choose one statistical variable to create the groups or do the split. And once you do that, you're going to have to add, before you're given the blank tables here, you have to create your own table. And you can do that by using insert and then table here, and then you choose, right? So my recommendation is that you first do this here on paper, maybe by looking at this table. Once you get an idea, you write it on paper, which variable, which feature you're using to do the split. And from that split, you want to, in the apply stage, remember there is split, apply, and combine, you're going to come up with operations, right? And so what are those operations? You choose. It could be total count of what's in that group. It could be minimum value if there are values. It could be if you have categorical, it's sometimes about the proportion of that categorical variable in that population sample or whatever. So that's what you're doing, and then you choose which are the operators of apply, and then you are going to so basically you need to create tables a couple of times. So remember here in the navigation bar, don't you do home, go to insert, this file home, insert, and under insert choose to insert a table. Okay, so let's also work on 5 minutes. And are there any questions? Do you have any questions about this? Okay, so let's go with 5 and we compare notes. If you need more time, then that's totally fine. Okay, so I think you need more time, but I just want to check. So Matthew, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I think let's just follow up. So you're gonna split using the column H or the feature H.
Either that gender might be a little bit easier since it would.
Well, no, but let's go with H. Let's just talk about that. Maybe you'll do gender, but so before you create the tables with pencil and paper there on by your side, if you were using H, how many groups would you create just by looking at that column? You are correct that there is one for 12, right? So basically here the H starts at 12 and ends at
I think there's 5 because
right.
yeah,
Uh-huh. And those 5 would be 12, 13. There's no 14, there's no 15, then there is 16, and then
17, 18.
17, and 18. That's your 5, right? There is no 19, there is no 20, it stops. So you would have 5 tables. And now on each table, everybody has the same age, but each table needs name, age, and gender. That's kind of what that approach would be like that. Okay. If you were doing gender, how many tables would you have?
I believe 3
Right.
with the
Mm-hmm. Right, because you have female, male, and other. So there would be 3 tables. In each table, everybody would have the same gender, but you still have the columns name, age, and gender. And then that would be the split part, and then you have to decide, what do I do for apply? Well, you can say, the size or the count or minimum, maximum, or something. I don't know, whatever. You decide what, maybe you just do one thing. It's one operation. Okay. Are you on track now?
I believe so.
Okay, so let's say we kind of need more time, but let's say 3 more minutes and we compare notes. So let me set this timer here. So I think everybody, based on the time that we had, everybody did really well. I'm just gonna wrap this up, and let me take a quick glance here at that PowerPoint. So, as I said, everybody did very well, right? So some people decided to split by gender, and some other people decided to split by age. I think Garrett, no, Matthew, maybe you're the only one but that's looking really good, Matthew. Okay, but let me just say that in these notes, here under starting with data and pandas, this data set here, it's information that contains several columns. Most of them are numeric, either integer or float, and this was corresponding to some data set of observations made of species in some ecosystem. But so this is the type of most columns, as you see there. There's only 2 of them that are strings, but here is where they have an application of this group by. So the command is called group by. So if you you first define the data frame of the storing the data, in this case is very rectangular, it has more than 30,000 rows and 9 columns, and you decide here when you call group by, one of the columns, it's kind of what you were doing there manually, one of the columns is called sex. These are species. There are 2 possibilities there, and so when this is one application where you're using group by and you're using that paradigm of split, apply, combine, and so this is the type of outcome that basically you are creating information, right? This summary here is that combine, that latter stage, where you have a little report of the calculations made on different groups according to how you decided to dissect or split the data. Okay, so I know this is a lot. It would be great if we had another 20 minutes to go on today, but we don't.